Middle East historian Taj Hage, I mean, Barack Obama said this. He said, if someone was sending rockets into my house, where my two daughters sleep at night, I'm going to do everything in my power to stop that, and I would expect Israelis to do the same thing.
I mean, that's quite true, but the point is we need to understand how the situation has come about. We seem obsessed with the current situation. We need to understand how Israel came into being. You know, we can debate here from now until doomsday about what's happening today, but we need to understand what has created the situation. How many of us know about the Hussein McMahon correspondence? How many of us know about the Sykes-Picot Agreement? How many of us know about the Balfour Declaration? All of them are duplicitous agreements that brought about the state of Israel.
But we are where we are.
Yeah, and to call Hamas a terrorist organization, what is the Stalag, the Irgun and the Haganah? How many of us know this? You see, we only know one side of the narrative. It's easy for people to say that Hamas is a terrorist organization, yet they were democratically elected. I might not like them. In fact, I don't agree with Hamas a lot of the time, but I cannot say this is terrorist. How come one person's terrorist and another person's freedom fighter?
Andrew Money?
Well, it's not the case that they're freedom fighters. The first thing that Hamas did when they were allegedly elected was to kill their co-religionists in the Gaza, was to throw people off buildings, to shoot people in the back when they're running away. This is what the Hamas do to their own co-religionists in the Gaza, to other Palestinians. So the first thing is that Hamas not only inflicts terror on the people of Israel, they also inflict it on other Palestinians. It's for the Palestinian peoples, as the rabbi said, to try to overthrow this terrorist organization. An organization which fights, if I may
as terrorist.
Well, an organisation which fulfills every...
Come off it.
Well, I don't know what else you call an organisation which has killed hundreds of it.
What was the Irgun? What was the Haganah?
Well, the Irgun and the Haganah are not operating at the moment.
No, but what were they?
Well, they were terrorist organisations at the time. But I would say that we're talking about what's happening at the present. And the present situation is that Israel builds bunkers in which its civilians have to shelter from rocket fire from the Hamas. The Hamas builds bunkers and hides its rockets in it, and then puts civilians on top of those bunkers. That is a terrorist organisation.
That is an organisation. What do you expect in a David and Goliath struggle?
That is an organisation that has no respect for human lives, not Palestinian lives and not Israeli lives.
F-16s?
Mahmoud, from the Conservative Friends of Israel, I'm putting this to you, Peter Hitchens. I mean, this is a difficult time for Friends of Israel, capital F and small f, isn't it?
It's a very difficult time. Partly, I think, because of the very second-rate nature of the political leadership in Israel at the moment. The problem with this action, apart from the very large numbers of innocent people who are getting killed in it, is that it isn't actually likely to achieve the aim set out for it. If I thought that Israel actually had a serious plan for stopping the rocket attacks on Sderot and other Israeli towns, then I'd find a lot more sympathy in my heart for the action. What this is about, I'm afraid, is sordid electoral politics in Israel, and the desire of various politicians to get themselves spurious reputations as hardliners. 6 months from now, there will still be rockets being fired from Gaza into Israel. Despite this operation, once this is all over, it will continue to happen. If it were a serious operation to stop this, if such a thing could be contemplated, there'd be more to be said for it. But it's disproportionate, not because of the level of arms involved, but because it simply doesn't have anything to do with its alleged aim.
Well, okay,
that's the real problem Israel has.
Douglas, I think I called you Andrew earlier, and I apologise for that. You know, you have the stature of a tennis player, clearly. But how can this do anything but strengthen the Hamas position, not only in the region, but across the whole Arab world? They've all of a sudden, look at the march yesterday with thousands of people there, with Hamas, you know, I think it was 12,000 people, Hamas posters, you know, people like Alexei Sayle and Annie Lennox marching alongside people with Hamas posters, and all of a sudden they're sort of heroic freedom fighters.
Really?
They've been strengthened.
You think Hamas or Annie Lennox become heroic freedom fighters, or Alexei Sayle needs to tell you what's right and wrong in the world?
Your problem is this, if I may interject just a moment, your problem is this, that the very, very foolish and unbalanced ideas, a gentleman over there enunciated one of them just now, that Israel in this conflict is Goliath and the Arabs are David, when Israel in fact has about, what, 2% of the land mass of the Middle East and about the same population. This idea that Israel is the aggressive bully is created in the public mind. This war is not going to be won by rockets, it's not going to be won by tanks, it's being won or lost on the television screens of the world, if Israel loses the support of the peoples of Europe and North America, which is in grave danger of doing, then Israel will lose the war.
When Israel risks, like in 2006, having 1 million of its civilians having to live under threat of rocket fire, this is something which should be beyond its concern about what European governments think or don't think. You mentioned earlier about the huge number of civilian casualties. I can't think of another situation in war in which a fifth of casualties are civilian, and in which the Hamas have suffered up till now perhaps as many as 400 casualties. 400 terrorists being killed seems to me to be good work. It's good work for the future of Israel. It's good work for the future of the region.
Upwards of 75 children have been killed. You can't call them terrorists.
No, I didn't call them terrorists. I said they were innocent civilians. But that 4 times that number of people being killed, the targeted people being killed, are terrorists, and they have been killed. And that can only be good for the region. It can only be good for Israeli security. And if the Arab world really cares about the Palestinian peoples, why doesn't it do something for them practical, instead of whining about this tiny slither of land which Israel occupies? Why don't they realise that if there's going to be peace in the region, it relies on there being a Palestinian solution, and it relies on there being an Israeli solution? That can happen, but the first thing that has to happen is that the Arab governments and the Palestinians realise that Israel isn't going anywhere. If they made that realisation, why would they be firing rockets into Israel proper? This isn't disputed territory. They're firing rockets into Israel. Why are they doing that?
We have to look at the root causes of this recent conflict. It didn't start on the 27th of December, when the rockets started flying, and the eruption of this recent conflict. We have 6 months of siege and blockade over Gaza. People are starving in Gaza. Starvation by Israel, blockading supplies of food, medical aids, and everything to Gaza. There is a 41 years of occupation. Palestinians are not allowed to have their freedom. Israel withdrew from the Gaza, from the settlements, but it continues its occupation of the Gaza Strip.
And you know, you do have a moral responsibility at a state level to behave in a reasonable, not vengeful, but strategic way.
Douglas, very quickly. Douglas, I'm going to go to the audience. Douglas.
I just asked what anyone in Britain would do if we had 6,000 missiles raining down on us and we had a sixth of our population living in bunkers. Okay. We wouldn't tolerate it, and nor should Israel.
What would you? But of course, Peter Hitchens, you are so right. It's how it looks to the rest of the world, isn't it?
Well, it is, and this, as I say, this is the point where Israel is losing. And Mr. Murray, I think it is, was talking about the how would a British government respond. Well, Britain was under terrorist attack for many years by the Irish Republican Army, to whom we've now surrendered, as it happens, in the most shameful grovelling I've ever seen.
Okay,
while that was going on, we did not actually send our Air Force to bomb Dublin. And I don't think that they would have been considered a particularly sensible response. Effective response is one thing. Ineffective, politically blundering,
Douglas Murray, during the Troubles, of course, perhaps a better analogy would have been flattening or bombing the Catholic parts of Derry. We never did that, did we?
No, but we sent in troops. We had areas where we had famous mistakes by the British Army during the Northern Ireland Troubles. This is, however, not at all similar. However, this is not at all similar to the situation in Northern Ireland, and the President just doesn't work. The IRA were not an elected organisation, as Hamas claimed to be at the moment.
They had massive support.
They didn't fire rockets into mainland Britain with the continuity that the Hamas did. The Hamas have effectively ministries in the Gaza. They have arms dumps in the Gaza. If we had been able to identify similar arms dumps in the IRA's times, if the IRA had the munitions that the Hamas do now, we would have done everything and anything similar to what Israel has done.
They killed more people. They killed one second, please. But they killed more people with massive atrocities on the British mainland than Hamas have managed with rockets over 10 years.
Hamas have killed hundreds of people through suicide bombings and sending in suicide bombs. This is why the security fence has been needed.
Well, the IRA killed thousands of people.
If I just may add, there is also just a fundamental misunderstanding about making the IRA comparison, which is the IRA never had as its charter obligations the annihilation of the British state. That is what Hamas is in its charter dedicated to, the annihilation of Israel, not the negotiation, not an issue over particular borders, but the annihilation of Israel. That's why it's sending rockets into mainland.
Zoe Williams. Surely that is why Israel's priority then should be separating the Palestinian people from Hamas and not uniting them all under this indiscriminate bombing.
Mahmoud Abbas is not uniting with
we've got an aid worker here.